I wrestled with the fact that the things that I'm good at are not things that I was taught. I didn't go to school to do business development. Nobody taught me how to do it. I learned it, actually. You talk about how we learn from watching our parents. It was as an adult and through personal development that I was like, oh my God, like my parents used to take me to all their work events. I went with my dad to a topping party, where you put the last floor in the building, and I watched him schmooze with other people and the way he made people feel and the way he talked to them. And I was like, oh my God, this is how I learned to do this. And I didn't even know I was learning it. And so for the women who are out there that are sort of coming into this a little bit later, like there's a lot of transferable skills that we're learning as parents that really are going to help us be better at our business. Yes. Patience and the way we view things and the lenses that we look at things. I think it makes us better.
That's so true, because I went back to the pivoting, but it's so true how many times I'm like, okay, this isn't working out, or what's again best for my son? Well, what's again best for my not customers, my community, my moms, my clients, my whatever that is, of like, what is that? And knowing like it has to work. And if it doesn't, again, pivoting and saying, and being adaptable. And that is motherhood.
And embracing that motherhood shift and knowing that all the things that you're learning, either you're helping your community, which maybe like that's your business, yes, or just your friends, like whatever you're learning and just sharing and supporting and being honest and not sugarcoating it and just being like, this is the real of parenthood, motherhood, entrepreneurship, whatever
unfiltered.
It might be. Yeah, and embracing those identity changes.
And I think the embracing the seasons, embracing the changes. We talk a lot at R&R about seasonality and not just the physical seasons, because it's hard for us in Florida to know. We've got wet and dry. That's basically it. It's hot. Yeah, exactly. But just knowing, like, I remember listening to a podcast and there was the CEO of the blow dry bar. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, she was like, I didn't even fully start blow drying people's hair till my kids were at least 5 years old. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because as business owners, especially if you've been an entrepreneur your whole life, you feel like there's this momentum that you have to ride. And if you hop off that train, you're not going to be able to get back on. And so hearing people's stories who are wildly successful, and also like Romi, you're a huge expander for me, like just in the parenthood space and the motherhood space, and just hearing stories of people that were like, yeah, I took a substantial break from, or just a pause in my business just so I could spend that time with my kids. And then to hear them have successful kids and successful businesses, I think learning, as you said, when to pivot, like, okay, for the next year, I'm actually going to not put my daughter in daycare and just stay at home with her. And that might mean that I'm at 20% capacity with my business. And then I know when I do put her in daycare, I'm ready to go again. And knowing that there's no end stop to your business, because I think that's hard. We think as soon as I stop posting on Instagram, no one's going to know where I am and what I'm doing. And just knowing that, like, it's okay to embrace that seasonality. It's okay to adapt. It's okay to pivot, knowing what your customers need at any given time and being able to adjust to that. And at the end of the day, knowing, you mentioned the word freedom in your first answer to the first question. No, for me, that's my number one value, is the freedom, right? And so a couple weeks ago, I had an opportunity. I think I was going to go work at a cafe for a few hours while I had the time. And a friend from school was like, hey, they're doing yoga at school at 9 a.m. Do you want to come do it with your child? And I was like, yep. I literally skirted the car around, did a U-turn, walked into yoga. And I was like, that's why I do what I do. And that's why I make the decisions that I can, so that I can choose to be at the 9 a.m. yoga class with my 3-year-old. And then I can also choose to take that week retreat with our clients, because they've been asking to go to Peru for, 3 years. And it's like being able to make those adjustments as you need to and embrace that your output levels will be different.
It's interesting you say that, because I do remember, people have sort of put a spin on this entrepreneurship journey that, like, you get more time.
Exactly.
And I think it's really important for anybody who's listening. It's not about more. So, for me, like I said, my mom was always present, but she was also sitting up in bed at night at 11 p.m. doing paperwork and still working, because at 4 o'clock, she wanted to do something with us. And I remember, like, about a couple months ago, Abby was home for her break, and the morning she was going back, and I was still in super grind mode. She's like, hey, do you want to run to the beach with me, like, before I go back to school today? And I was stressed because I actually had a lot going on. And I was like, yeah, I fucking do. And I dropped everything, and it was pouring rain, and we had the best time. And I thought, like, these are the things that are so critically important. So if you're in a position where you're working the way you're working now while your kids are younger, that is okay. Just make those moments. I used to pick up my kids randomly and separately during the week and just play hooky. So I would pick Jonah up on a Thursday. I'd be like, don't tell your sister, it's not happening again. And we would go see a movie because that was what he liked to do. And I would pick her up and we would do something that she liked to do. And carving those like moments out so that you can then do all these other things.
I love how you said that, because freedom doesn't always mean more time. Freedom just means the opportunity to choose and have the choice, because that is so true. Because can we make an announcement here right now? Because I am so not sick and tired, but social media has amplified. There's so many people that want to be business owners, and I think it's great. But I'm like, why? Because I think you really need to know your why, because this is fucking hard. Yeah. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. And I know some people who don't have kids are like, oh yeah, and then you add motherhood, but to be a mother is hard. To be a caregiver of your parents, maybe you don't have kids. There's so many things that are hard. And then when you put them together, like, this shit is hard. And I think it glorifies it so much. To your point before, or one of you had said, like, thinking social media and parenting is this. And it's the same thing with entrepreneurship, which is why I live for conversations of people that are so real. Like, listen, it took me 10 years. You know, I love the Gary V's when he speaks on that. Like, everyone wants to get rich so fast and thinks that they're going to be like the next viral, and that's like 1 in 1,000. Like, to really truly build a community like what we're trying to build, this is a marathon, and there's going to be so many people joining it. I'm sure even retreats, everyone wants to do retreat, and you're like, okay, to do it the way that you know that, or you feel needs to really give it the proper, maybe even with estate planning, like, yeah, but no, to really get the people that you want. So I just want to put that PSA out there that anyone listening, this shit is hard. And to truly, truly be able to be the best mom, wife, daughter, friend, whatever the different roles in your life, to really recognize that and understand when you need to take a step back and how important it is for your mental health. Because I will say, I never struggled with anything truly mental health until I became a mom, and I had anxiety that hit me. We didn't have COVID and I didn't leave my house. I remember tried leaving with my son, and I was afraid of the judgment and the shame. I'm like, what if he can't stop crying? And everyone's like, oh, this baby. My thoughts were through the roof, and I physically couldn't do it. And then becoming an entrepreneur, I never struggled with mental health of even remotely my self-worth. Never had that until I became an entrepreneur. And I was like, holy shit, I'm not doing enough. And this, oh, and wait, there's a new group. Oh no, I need to be here. And I'm like, Nicole, how many conversations I've had to myself where I need my Nikki G to be like, come down, Nicole. But that's real.
When you operate from an abundance mindset, you recognize there are other people doing what you're doing, and that's great that they did that, and that works for their organization. Just to be able to say, there's enough. So great, there's other people doing retreats, there's other people doing that stuff. There's enough for all of us. So I don't need to do 75. And for me, my burnout came in the form of events. The last year was really taxing on me, to a point where I did not see my family at night, and people would be like, oh, well, your kids are all grown. I'm like, but I'm still their mom. And I still want to spend time. I want to have dinner with my family, but I'm at 7 events a week or more. And it was interesting because my husband said it, Nicole's like it. She's like, just don't go. You don't have to go to another one. No one's going to care. I'm like, no one's going to care. I'm like, are you sure? She's like, okay, let me be clear about that. And what I started to get better about, and I'm really disciplined about it now, is the things that I attend. If I'm taking time away from my family or from whatever it is, it has to check some boxes.
I always say, and I think we can all probably agree on this, is motherhood and entrepreneurship is, like you said, the exact same. It's you're birthing something into life, and you're trying to mold and guide it into what you would love to see it be. And hopefully it's received well by other people. That's basically what that is, right?
Yeah, and it gives you profits. And yes.
For me, how motherhood has kind of evolved with entrepreneurship, I mentioned in part 1, I've always been an entrepreneur. Ever since I was 7 years old, I was the girl. My good family friend's mom just told me at my sister's wedding last weekend, you would come over to my house and just say, get the table out. We're making a lemonade stand, Patty. This is what we're doing today. And I've kind of always been that way. So even when I've had kind of that traditional 9-to-5 job, I've always had something on the side. And so for me with motherhood, and when I decided in October October 2021 to officially quit my decade in marketing and move completely over into, at the time, was a coaching business for mothers. I've kind of always seen problems that other people are having, including myself, and trying to solve solutions to that. That's what entrepreneurship, most of us do, is we see problems that we're currently having and we want to solve, and we see that other people want that. And so very similar to what you've said about the boundaries, creating boundaries for yourself. And I think that's with motherhood as well, is just really being clear, especially with my business, which is in the travel industry. I could go for 4 or 5 different retreats or group tours at a time if I wanted to, but then I'm gone for, there was one year in 2022, I think it was, where I counted it up, and including the trips that I had taken with my husband, I think I was gone for like 2.5 months of the year. And my daughter was born in September 2022. So there was a lot of movement where I was like, you know what, this isn't really serving my daughter to be away that long. It's not serving me to be away that long. And so now for me, I've had to create the boundaries of, I can be away for 2 trips out of the year, and one of those could be for business, and one of those might be with my husband, or it might be 2 with the business. I make a lot of calls, especially with the Daily Drip. There are so many amazing events, amazing workshops, amazing parties, and I have to make the call, like, am I going to leave bedtime for this? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. And so the boundaries is a huge part of it, and it filters in with the lessons that you learn in motherhood and how to create boundaries, like you mentioned before, like putting the blinders on to what other parents are doing and just saying, this is what I'm doing as a business owner, this is what I'm doing as a mother, and really having that like self-worth and self-esteem within yourself to know, like, this is what's best for my family, this is what's best for my business. And like, there is no like work-life integration. Like, it's happening all at the same time as an entrepreneur, especially when you're so passionate about what you're doing. And yeah, it's like you said, they're still learning. It's a lifelong journey of just kind of figuring out the balance for you and what feels good for you at any given season of life.
Yeah. And what's interesting is all 3 of you, actually, what you do professionally is, it's interesting to me how it really is connected to being a mother in some capacity. I mean, and I think the way you approach, and you'll speak to this, so I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm curious to know how you approach estate planning specifically now that you're a mom, right? I mean, that's just going to hit different. And to your point, travel. How does it look different now as somebody who was like wanderlust, right, for such a long period of time, and making that adjustment and figuring out how to integrate, and you as well.
Wanderlust. It's true. That was that cow.
That's my husband's Instagram handle, at Sir Wanderlust.
Well, and because I think it also speaks to us as women and entrepreneurs. How do we hold on to at least some parts of ourselves? Because as moms, I feel like we just turn it all over. We're giving everything we have and then some. It's the most important, that's the way I operate, right? Like, I will just keep giving to my kids. So things like the crossing for me represent something that I do for me. I mean, I do it for people with CF, obviously, but I mean, it is something that is mine, that helps me kind of keep part of my identity of adventure or, challenging myself, all of that. And so I think it's really interesting how the careers kind of, whether it was on purpose or not, very much align with, I was a photographer because I missed my dad. Like, one thing I had after my dad passed were albums and albums of photographs. What I wanted to do was take these kinds of photographs so that other parents would have these moments that were, not scripted, but I loved taking these in the moment shot. Just going to kids' schools. I would go to preschools and just take pictures of their kids enjoying their day. Because what a gift, right? So my journey has always had that tied to it. So yeah. So what's it like to be an estate planning attorney and have your own firm and be a mom?
Well, I mean,
how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like you, Nicole, like becoming a mom really inspired my entrepreneurial journey. I've always been entrepreneurial-esque. Like, I was the kid with the lemonade stand. And when I was in Big Law, I still had an Airbnb and I was coaching law students. So I was always like, I had my hands in it. But it wasn't until I felt, wow, in this firm, I'm not seen, I'm not supported. And I had issues with my compensation. So I'm like, if I'm going to become a partner, where in law firms, typically your partnership comp is very discretionary up to the firm. I'm like, I can't trust them to pay me what I'm worth. We already know women are getting paid significantly less than men. Now I'm a mom. So for me, one of my biggest driving forces beyond just making sure that I could build my own thing was my law partner and I always had this conversation. We were working with the wealthiest of the wealthiest, the top 1% of the 1%, the billionaires and the multi-millionaires. And I said, we need this legal service, estate planning, business planning, not just for those wonderful wealthy clients. They're great. Why doesn't everyone have this in a way that is accessible and affordable and also feels empowering? And